There's probably not a company going in the world that quarries the stone, trucks the stone, fabricates the stone, trucks it to the job, has their own people install it, and you will not find a better marble installation in the world. I started in the masonry contracting business in 1959. I did one job, and it had probably about 30 ton of Corona stone on it. And the fellow that I bought the stone from asked me to go to work for him. He offered me a brand new shiny pickup truck, and after looking at what I was driving, I thought that's all I needed. And I went to work for him for about a year. And when he ran out of stockholders that would donate, he went out of business. And I knew a fair amount about quarries around New Mexico by then and where to buy stone. And I kind of wanted to start something, but my father passed, and we went back to our hometown for the funeral. And an old friend came to the funeral, and he was all crippled up with arthritis. And I said, Earl, you got to get out of this damp, cold, rainy country here. It's terrible here. The sun shines all the time out west. One day, all of a sudden, he showed up on my doorstep. He couldn't get a job. He was so bad. And after about 3 months, he started getting a lot better. And I asked him one day, I said, you know, I'd almost like to start a little stone yard. And if you'd like to run it, you can run the stone yard. And that's how it started. And I think the first year we probably maybe grossed $15,000 in sales. We didn't advertise, we didn't do anything. We put a sign out in front and put flagstone out, and we just tried to have fair prices and good service, and it helped make it grow. The quarries were really opened by Charlie Steen. They called him the Uranium King. And he had heard about the travertine quarries out in New Mexico. And when he came out here, he realized that there was no way that anybody could produce it, so he ended up buying the company. Charlie neglected to pay his income tax. They locked everything up Charlie owned, and it closed up, and it sat for a few years. And we were sending Charlie Steen a royalty every month because we were buying rubble stone, loading it, taking it out ourselves. And one day, a fellow walked into my office, and he says, you don't pay a royalty to Charlie Steen anymore, you pay it to me. I said, oh, how come? He said, well, they had the bankruptcy auction, and I ended up with the quarries. I said, okay. Then he tried to sell the quarries, but nobody wanted anything to do with it. And so him and I negotiated a price, and we ended up with it. I realized when we bought those quarries that we had to start fabricating slabs to be able to sell any of that material to justify what it really was. So we spent about $15,000 at the most. We bought a worn-out polisher and a worn-out wire saw that could cut the slabs from the blocks. And after 22 years, I quit the masonry business.
I worked at Rocky Mountain Stone after school and on the weekends, and I think my dad was the king of projects. Whether we were doing something at the office or, you know, building a building or building a house or landscaping or building walls, we always had work to do. He kept us busy. I went to New Mexico State, and I did some interviewing when I was in college. And I remember coming back, and it was about the time that my dad started talking about starting a new company called New Mexico Travertine. And he came to us and said, you guys want to buy into this? I'd love to have the three brothers be part of it. I thought, what a great opportunity. And they gave me the title of marketing director because I took a few marketing classes in college. We made a decision to try and set up some dealers and to start trying to peddle this travertine that we were going to start quarrying and processing. My oldest brother ended up running all the quarries. They needed somebody to stay at Rocky Mountain Stone, and I said, I'll work at Rocky Mountain Stone. And we actually had a yard down in the middle of Los Lunas, and we were bringing in all of our rubble stones and palletizing it and shipping out train loads back east and out to the West Coast. So it was an exciting time. It was a growing company, and it was a fun start. As demand increased, our business increased. I think it was market driven, and because of the travertine quarry, we were kind of dipping our toes into the fabrication side of it, and there's never a dull moment. You're dealing with the oldest building material, pretty noble product to be able to work with. It's different every time you get a slab of material in, or some of the stuff that comes out of the earth, to me is just fascinating. The different marbles and granites and now quartzites that we get to deal with. There's nothing like it in the world. Everything we do is custom. It's challenging, so creating a system that addresses custom stonework so that it's repeatable and you can do it right the first time, every time, is really fun. I think that the fundamental tenets of any successful business are the same. You have to have integrity. You have to do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Treat people right and be honest and transparent about what you're doing. And I think those are the values that my dad instilled in all of us. People that get into the stone business, it's sort of one of those things that when it gets in your blood, it's hard to get out of it. We all have a fundamental tie to the earth. We're dealing with a pretty emotional part of any house. And so the scrutiny when it comes to countertops is probably higher than most other places in a home. And the other thing that's always interesting is we're at the tail end of the construction cycle. You put your countertops in, you set your sinks, and do a little bit of trim work, and 3 weeks later, you're moving in. Seeing that and being able to go out and see a job or meet with a customer after a project's been completed, and just to see something get transformed is really cool. It's really cool. It's an honor to be able to continue a family business. Looking back on it, it's been a lot of fun, and it's really cool to be able to continue that legacy that my dad started. I'm at that point in life where I can see over the horizon, and I need to get my succession plan dialed in for the next generation.